What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to take a look at the newest sales figures for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, and this thing just keeps on crushing it. I want to also talk about the sales for the first game because this franchise, just in general, I guess it doesn't surprise me anymore, but it is cool to see just how many units the franchise as a whole has sold, and this thing really does, not single-handedly, but this thing moves PlayStation consoles, and Sony, I'm sure, is very, very thankful, about the Spider-Man licensing thing with Insomniac, and I'm sure they have many, many more games planned. Again, when you see these kind of sales figures, right, you can talk about Spider-Man 3 and obviously other, maybe spin-off stuff, but I highly doubt they'd ever want to stop it, considering how fast it sold. So right now, it's at 5 million units after 10 days, and this is after the whole, I think 2.5 million after maybe a day, and it's the fastest selling PlayStation exclusive of all time. You go back to the first game, and the first game did 3.3 million in the first 3 days, and then it sold 9 million units by November of 2018. So about 2 months it took them to reach 9 million. Marvel Spider-Man 2 sitting at 5 million after just a week and a half. I think because of Black Friday, I think because of Sony being very, very confident, I think they have a reason to be confident, right, with how they talk about this is going to be like their best Black Friday or like holiday season of all time. They're expecting to push PlayStation consoles out at record pace. And I think, you could say, well, are they just talking like that because of Spider-Man? Like, is Spider-Man going to be enough? Yeah, it actually is. And I mean, we're kind of seeing it play out in real time. They got to be able to, kind of predict these things and know these things ahead of time, but I think they're going to be right. Regardless, you could say whether you love the game, whether you like the game, again, almost a neutral stance, just taking a few steps back just to see the success of it, regardless of the quality, is pretty interesting to see. So, again, back to the first game, took 2 months to get to 9 million. We know that it jumped actually quite a bit. The main thing with not just Marvel Spider-Man, but even we saw with Miles Morales, these games just sell really, really well over time. And even Miles was a really cool kind of case study of it did well at launch, but it really over time continued to do well primarily on PS5. That game, I guess, pushed the PS5 out there to consumers and almost seemed like people were waiting to get a PS5 to play Miles, right? Not getting the PS4, but going for the PS5. Obviously, you don't have a choice in this case, right? You have to get it for PS5. But I would not be shocked, if it's at 5 after 10 days. I think with Black Friday, with, again, the push of PlayStation, and this being, as Sony has said, this being really the first year that they're, completely ready to, which is sad. It is sad that it took us multiple years. This is the fourth, I guess, Black Friday period that the PS5 and Series S and X have been out. And it's sad that, they're now just ready to go full-on stock for these consoles, but it is what it is. I think because of that push, I really think this game can hit maybe 9 million right away. Maybe by the time Black Friday is done, can it do 2, 3, 4 million units in the next couple of weeks? Normally, the answer would be no, right, because it would slow down. But because of Black Friday, because of bundle deals, and if you count the bundles, which they did do that, at least at the beginning with Marvel Spider-Man 1, I think it can do it. And like I said, you can look at the stats of the first game. You can look at the stats of Miles. These games sold well over time. These games hit 10 million, right? 15 million. They just kept kind of going. And I mean, all games slow down. And I mean, this game will slow down in terms of sales, but it definitely slows down the least that you would see normally from other even AAA games, even exclusive games for consoles, whether it's first-party games. Spider-Man just doesn't slow down as much as other ones do. So it's cool to see. Honestly, it's really neat. I like the game quite a bit, and I want to see it continue. So obviously, it's a little bit of a benefit. And I guess one side thing that does maybe apply to the entire thing, again, whether you love or hate, whatever I guess you stand on Spider-Man, because it is a little divisive, out there online. I hope one thing that gets through Sony is, look, single player game is selling outrageously well. Now, you can look at it a couple different ways. I don't really know if that would get through to them because I feel like it's almost a given. They almost would. Like, if Spider-Man doesn't sell, that would be the shocker. But they knew how well the first game did. They knew how well Miles did. They would, of course, know going in, again, being able to predict how well this one would do. So you can look at it that way and say, well, they probably don't like get nailed in the head and say, oh yeah, single player games might be the way to, it's our bread and butter. They have talked about that before where they know these games are their most successful, or I guess what makes PlayStation. But I do hope that kind of, drives through to them. And then again, on the idea of spin-offs and continuing the franchise, that's the thing that can definitely backfire, right? Like making like 15 Spider-Man games, let's say, right? That could be too much. People could eventually get tired. I'm not actually saying 15, right? But the idea that Sony sees this, and this is why, like, absolutely, they will not stop at Spider-Man 3. They might stop, like, Peter at Spider-Man 3, but you are going to see spin-offs, and they already have proven to themselves that spin-offs work. Like, Miles is probably not going to sell, or, now that we're going to have the numbers for 2, I'm sure 1 and 2 will outsell Miles, right? But if you can put a Miles Morales-type game out every couple of years, and it does still really excellent, just not, like, unbelievable, like 1 and 2 has done, they're going to take that every time, right? So if you're concerned that maybe like Spider-Man's going to end, after 3 games, yeah, Peter might, but like the franchise in terms of spin-off games, and obviously maybe even like Marvel, and maybe like shows them like, ooh, Sony's got something here, at least with Insomniac, right? It's not going to stop because money talks more than anything. And although Sony's kind of splitting between single player and live service, they see this. They absolutely see this, and I assume they're thinking, yep, like right in line with what we want, and we are never stopping this. Unless, of course, when the money starts to dry up, then you would maybe start to say, okay, well, maybe we've done, milked it too much or whatever. But it is cool to see. So we'll see how it does over the next couple of weeks, but I would not be shocked if Game Awards time, end of the year, like to end 2023, they tweet out that it sold 10 million. Like, I really think that's reachable, and that's actually insane, considering the player base of the PS5, and that would be a pretty high number, by the way, like install base, pretty high compared to like many other games out there. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.